These are new chairs.
I actually, hey,
Hello.
this is you're being,
These are brand new chairs.
Although you're pointing at them as a.
no,
Not
The
bad.
other one didn't
Walking
slide
in the fire.
underneath.
No.
at least for the start.
I gotta go to the bathroom. Thank you for the warning.
Nice to see you. Good to see you too. You all right? Thank you.
I just walked.
We're just as busy as I am, but, couple of things that I have to finish.
The,
Next couple of minutes sometime. Try to catch up.
Okay, but you have my cheat sheet, right?
That's what I was gonna come move it.
Oh, thank you. No, I'll move on.
There's
That's
like
page 2.
Yeah. That way we
Cindy
sound-
said she was leaving about 15 minutes ago and she, it says it's an hour and 15 minutes right now to get here, so.
Okay.
So, yeah. I only found out at like 5:30 or else I would have warned you.
Thank you. You can show up on time today.
We would have made Judy do it.
Okay.
Oh, all right, so I do have a laser pointer,
Oh, thank you.
but I don't know how well it's gonna show up.
Oh.
So this is my backup, non-laser.
Make it work, thank
I'll just
you.
leave these here if you need these. It might show up, I was testing it. Let's see.
We can actually get a laser pointing to your new.
It's true. Yeah, then you point, but it's like,
I do not.
you can do it, whatever you want. But I'll have it pulled up on the screen. So,
Thank you.
all right, we're still good to go. Ken's on the line. Ken, can you hear us?
Well, actually, it's not.
Or none of your friends. But we're good to go.
You came prepared psychologically. Not for this. The only, what's this,
You have to read that for the hearing.
the whole thing,
Yes, ma'am.
reading Spanish. That's good, eh? Six already. No, I have to read it only.
Yeah, I guess so. He's just gonna have to sign this another day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess so. It'll be our first one.
Yes. All right. So you don't have anything to talk about the sides here, right? Okay.
I should not have signed that.
It's fine, but
Okay.
because you're an applicant, you wouldn't have to do public comment. But if you had other public comment, then we would call you up for that
Can I
portion.
comment on her?
You can during the hearing, but this would be like the hearing. So I'll just,
You can just cross me off. I don't have an opinion on anything else. Thank you.
just so it's fine. Just for the record, because we have the same. Just making sure. All right. We have 6. Well, Kent is on Zoom.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Just
texting.
I'm looking to swear in tonight. Can you swear in virtually, I guess?
Yeah,
You already talked about that.
I guess so, yeah.
Sorry.
If you get a 10 virtually, I guess you can get sworn in. Stay together.
serious? We don't into school.
Uchi, I think we're ready to start whenever you are.
Yeah, that's right.
Looks like-
How do I start? Good night, everybody. The planning commission is gonna start their regular meeting at 6:01. I'll make it to order. Oh, no, Wanda, you do that, right?
You just call the meeting to order at 6:01.
6:01?
Yep. And then roll call.
Okay, roll call, please.
Okay. Chuck Howard,
Present?
Kent Slaymaker,
Present.
Your voice did not come through there, Kent. I saw your lips move, but we can't hear you. I think yeah, it looks like you're muted. I just clicked ask to unmute, so maybe you like have a button to click.
Present?
No, we can't. Yeah, it's not working. He's unmuted.
Yeah.
is it okay for roll call for physics meeting?
Sign language.
Thumbs up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess,
He wrote present in the chat, but he's gonna work
Universal
on it.
language.
okay.
We could also, I guess, once Kent gets his audio working, then Wonder can note the time. If that's what you need it to be.
Yeah, I mean, we're just not gonna be able to have him.
Vote or swear in or?
Yeah, that's the problem.
Is it worth Kent maybe like logging out of the meeting, logging back in, and try that? I don't really know. You're kind of the tech wizard, so you can hear us.
Yeah.
Katie Maxwell.
Here.
Alternate Jefferson Litch.
Here.
Alternate Judy Murphy.
Here.
Vice Chair Ursula Kruzaleki.
Here.
Chair Cindy Olson. Kent Slaymaker? Is it
I
frozen?
think that's frozen
Okay.
from leaving.
I'm promoting him back to panelist. Maybe joining to a separate.
Present?
All right, can you hear us now?
Yep.
It says it's talking.
Is our volume up here?
Yeah, that shouldn't be it. Let me, just in case that's the issue, I'll mess around with it a little, but everything appears to be on.
Okay.
It's turned up, I guess. So, Kent, can you? Oh, Kent will be here in 5 minutes.
Hey, gents, you gonna hear me?
Oh, I'm gonna come first.
All right.
So I suppose we could probably move the agenda around a bit and swear him in later, or does he have to be sworn in before?
Did his term expire?
Yeah, at the end of February,
Okay.
maybe the point is.
Well then. I guess we can either move I guess we can move his swearing in to the end of the agenda,
Then he just wouldn't be able to vote tonight.
and then he just doesn't, we're just gonna count him as absent for the entirety of the meeting, except for when he swears in at the end. I think is the best way to handle it.
Can we just switch orders though? Like order of the agenda items?
Yeah,
Can
so
participate in the conversation?
we'd have to wait for him, essentially, so.
So he would miss the public hearing new business item, but he'd be sworn in time for the work session.
Yeah,
And so if we go this route, then that means Jefferson and Judy, you're voting members. We have to establish anything with that, or just because of how it's?
no, the only thing we're gonna have to do is if we're good with that, we'll have to Motion to approve the agenda with item 3 changed to occur after. Or it could be, item 3 could be, 3A could be relettered to be item 10B. It could be new business.
That would be in the motion for agenda approval.
Yeah,
So do I hear a motion to move item 3A to 10B?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, so we move to approve the agenda.
or what? That was the, well, I guess,
Well,
could-
yes, yeah, we
you could
approved it with
do-
the modification.
motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Yay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we move to elect the chair and vice chair. Or,
Yeah.
yeah,
This is, yeah. Now. Question for, well, we'll see how it goes, right? But a question for Nick, because Kent isn't here and Cindy isn't here. Who do they, I guess Kent can't be appointed, right? If we wanted to, because he's not a member until 10B. Cindy could be appointed even though she's not here
Yeah.
technically, right? But would she have to accept anything or could she just be?
I think she could just be appointed.
Okay, well, I just wanted to clarify that, so now you all can, I guess, make decisions.
so.
And you could, if you wanted to keep it exactly as it is now,
Mhm.
you could make it all in one motion. You could say, I move to elect Cindy as chair and Uchi as vice chair, and that's the motion. And if that passes, then everyone's elected all at once.
Okay, would anybody have a motion to appoint a different chair or a different vice chair?
No.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve the same chair and vice chair?
I make a motion that we re-elect the chair and vice chair.
Chair
Of
being
the
Cindy
planning
Olson
commission.
and vice chair Ursula Crucilli. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Public comment, do we have anybody signed up for public comment?
No one online and there's no one on the signed up for general public comment.
Here comes Jen.
Oh, that was fast, man.
Welcome, Kent. Just, we did your appointment to the end because.
So you can sit there, but I guess you can leave.
Just
This is
pretend
very-
like you're not
You're visible.
part of the board until you get sworn in tonight. Sure. But feel free to go. That's it.
Okay, so, does anybody have any conflict of interest? Noted, we move to approval of the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from February 5th, 2026?
I move that we accept the minutes of the February 5th, 2026 meeting.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great news. Okay, and general updates.
So much of my staff report is really for the work session. I kind of combined everything, but I did put a couple of bills that could impact us in the future about housing in the packet. So if anyone has questions about those or anything like that, let me know, but I just thought that could be interesting reading and something to follow as it gets closer. I don't know that the city has a stance on either of these two housing related bills quite yet, but I'll keep you up to date on those because it could change the powers and control that planning commission and council would have on certain properties. And otherwise, everything else I put in this report is just going forward with in work session. So I guess that's it, unless anyone has questions about anything else.
Anybody? These are proposed bills or haven't passed yet? Is that?
No, they're like being discussed in the House,
Okay,
like committees now, and so it would probably be at least a couple of months before they would pass.
okay,
So
but
I
they
don't
might get modified as well, right?
They could, yeah. Another bill that could be interesting is the Proposition 123, you know, how we committed to certain building more units. They're now talking about what our commitment would be for the next 3 years. And I'll keep you up to date as there's more info, but it seems very complicated this time. Like there's all these different formulas and fractions and things like that, so. But yeah, these I wouldn't expect to hear anything really else on until a month or two from now.
Thank you. Okay, so we can move to new business. We have a public hearing. Do I need to read this right now? Thank you, Nick.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so, outline of planning commission public hearing, minor subdivision request 3669-3673 Chicago Creek Road, March 5th, 2026. This matter is set for a public hearing before the City of Idaho Springs Planning Commission tonight. The city has received a request for a minor subdivision to create 5 lots at 3669-3673 Chicago Creek Road. For this application, the planning commission will conduct a hearing and vote to either recommend or not recommend the application to city council. This is a formal public hearing. We will require testimony to be given under oath. We will not follow any formal rules of evidence. If there is a question about the admissibility of evidence or testimony, I will make a ruling on that as chair. After I open the hearing, I will invite city staff to give a presentation. Then the applicant will be invited to present evidence and testimony. Then members of the public will be invited to give evidence and testimony. City staff and the applicant may respond to public testimony. Finally, the applicant will be given the opportunity to have the last word on any matter raised during the public hearing. Throughout this process, commissioners may ask questions. After I close the public hearing, the commission will begin its deliberations and make our decision. We will do this by motion. A suggested motion is in the staff report and in our motion guidelines. If we cannot reach a decision tonight, we could also continue the matter. Before I open the public hearing, any questions about process? I now open the public hearing on the minor subdivision request to create 5 lots at 3669-3673 Chicago Creek Road. Open public hearing, state time for the record is 6:13. Then we'll go with staff report, applicant presents, public comment, limited to 3 minutes. As a speaker to say, okay, no, that's what I'm instructions
You're good for now. Yeah.
Okay, that's it, perfect, thank you.
Okay, well, I have prepared just a short presentation. The report is in your packet. I'll just share the screen, the plat, and I can zoom in on it as needed. I'll just have it up for the record. So this is a minor subdivision application in accordance with Article 13 of the municipal code, which allows a slightly reduced, I guess, process as long as you're creating 5 lots or fewer, as is the case here. To give a little background on context, it's located just adjacent to the city water treatment plant, a few miles up Highway 103. And it's this current site of Blackstone Ranch. It's zone C3, commercial interchange, which allows for a variety of commercial uses, lodging and event space, and also multifamily housing, things like that. And this has been ordinance in the city since 2007, and in accordance with Chapter 24 requirements, I did send public notice as is required. There's 5 criteria for approval for minor subdivisions. That also match the criteria for a final plat. Which is why the first criteria is not relevant in this case, because there's no preliminary plat that's eliminated from the minor subdivision process. The other criteria we believe as staff are all met. I did refer this out also to relevant agencies, utility companies, public works, water and sewer, police, fire, and we did not receive any negative comments. Any comments that we did receive were addressed. And so everyone otherwise said they're okay to proceed. So I reviewed the first one against applicable requirements of the subdivision regulations. There appears to be suitable access. There's suitable water and wastewater facilities. Those will, are suitable to continue. And if there's any new uses or structures in the future on any newly created lots, if approved, it would need to continue to meet that, but Public Works has said that it's adequate. So we believe that's met. If this plat were approved, the lots created would meet all applicable requirements in staff's opinion of the C3 zone district. They range in size the lots from 0.41 acres to 4.56 acres, and see on the plat, that's also part of you. The application is, staff believes, in general conformance with the comprehensive plan, which talks about it's designated as transitional mixed use. This allows a number of items, including tourism-oriented hospitality uses, like RV parks, motels, campgrounds, and the like. And the goal is to maintain that mountain residential character in general, but even still, it's, this balance, which we believe it's currently met, and in the future, we'd review similarly with the comprehensive plan to make sure it continues to be met. 2 specific objectives that I've identified is that it supports tourism and special event activities potentially, and also could incentivize economic development and support local business in the area while protecting quality of life of that area. And finally, there's a talk about Chapter 25 regulations, which is areas of activities of state interest, and we believe that's met. This would should not be intended to cause excessive noise, water, air pollution, or degrade or threaten environmental quality, or require the use of public resources. So given all of these, staff believe that this minor subdivision meets the requirements and would recommend that you recommend approval of the application. And we don't have any conditions in place at this time. And if you have any questions, let me know. That's it.
Thank you, Dylan. So now the applicant can make the presentation.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Will you please state your name and address for the record?
Rachel Betts, 3669 Chicago Creek Road, Idaho Springs, Colorado, 80452.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Hello. As Dylan mentioned, this is a property that Blackstone Rivers Ranch operates and hosts weddings on. Do you all have a copy of this? I probably need to point. If you can see lot 1 on the plat, which is at the very far left, that is the current site where we host events. And the big driver behind our decision to subdivide the property is so we would really like to find a partner to build some lodging on lot 4, which is kind of completely opposite of that. After many years in business, we know we don't love the lodging business, but it would be an amazing addition to Blackstone and Idaho Springs as a whole. And so kind of on our radar immediately is to hopefully find someone who's interested in lot 4. It was approved, a building envelope on it was approved for up to an 18-room boutique hotel when we went through the whole approval process for Blackstone. So the building envelope is approved. It would just be a process for them to actually get a building approved. So that's kind of on our radar now. The main house, a cabin, and the shop are currently on lot 2. And we've contemplated a lot of other things for lot 2 and lot 3. We've talked about kind of an on-property spa, fitness center. If a hotel goes in, that might make sense. But really trying to think about how to take the property to the next level so we can keep visitors on property and in town for more than a day. So that's kind of the big driver behind it. Lot 5, which is actually on the other side of Highway 103, is we don't really have an idea for that parcel yet, but we would like to find some type of complementary business operator at some point in time. So the minor subdivision is just subdividing the parcels. We're not asking to have any new uses approved. All uses would stay within the current zoning. We're not requesting to build any new structures at this time. Just be able to start marketing at least one of those pieces for potential development. That's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
So public comment now? We don't have anybody signed up for it.
There's nobody online
Okay.
and nobody in the room, I look, so.
So I guess commissioners' questions for either you or the applicant, right?
I have a question. Is there any possibility that any of these lots would be residential?
No, because it's zoned commercial. It's C3 zoning. Oh, you mean building multifamilies? What?
C3 would allow as a use by right multifamily. It wouldn't allow single family as a use by right. Someone would have to go through a zoning process for single family. But multifamily, because it is a potentially permitted use,
It could do.
it could potentially be done, but it would be required to go through like a final development plan. And the way our code is written is that you couldn't, without going through another process, you're looking to do mixed use rather than just exclusively multifamily residential. So it would be like, I have a lodging business, but then I also have on-site employee housing or something like that, so. So it could happen, but there's likely a process they'd have to go through for the residential.
You know my feelings about metro districts. Is there any possibility that could be used in
Theoretically,
Any of that?
there's nothing in the city that would prohibit the allowance for a metro district really on any property in the city. That, of course, would also have to go through all the relevant public processes.
What is a metro district?
Well, so it's a type of special district that kind of does sort of individualized utilities and things like that for an area. So I don't know, that's a very much a generalization of it, but it's like, you know, there's subdivisions or like a good example might be Copper Mountain has a metro district and they manage like all the water and sewer.
So we are on that property. We annexed it when it was annexed into Idaho Springs. We're required to connect to city water and sewer. So we are on Idaho Springs water and sewer, and then also we pay into Chicago Creek Sanitation District. So I don't know if that makes a difference. We're already connected.
Right, and yeah, it would be more of like a hypothetical scenario where someone said, hey, I want to build 60 units of lodging and the city says, we have to upsize your lines and maybe there's a metro district would sort of be a way of funding those improvements without you just paying for those improvements, I guess. Again, there's a lot more nuance than that, but that's like a very, very incomplete, high level. But as currently constructed, you need a metro district because you're already connected to this city water and sewer and have all that infrastructure.
I have a couple questions. The first one is for Dylan, well, maybe both. I just wanted to ask you to clarify on the report that you give us. You mentioned, and sorry, I'm gonna find it now. You said that they could possibly include a FPD for any of those parcels, and do you say that because of whatever development they end up doing, right?
Right, so pretty much any new commercial development that's like a new building would require a final development plan. But theoretically, there's certain uses, like if you established a new use in an existing building, you'd have a new use on the site, but you would not be required to go through that process. Similarly, if you have a lot that, let's say, has 10,000 square feet of usable space already, you'd have to increase the square footage by a certain amount in order to trigger a public hearing versus it being an administrative review. So, yeah, so that basically means likely on some of these lots that are vacant, like unquestionably, you'd have to go through the final development plan process, but if they were to propose new uses on like lot number 1, it may or may not, depending on the circumstances.
Okay, so even if they still subdivide but don't sell, for example, if they wanted to build something that is smaller than 50% in another parcel, they would have to do an FPD because it's a different parcel?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. And then other question, you mentioned the building envelope when we approved Blackstone River, and I was around. I remember voting for that, but I can't remember when that was. So I'm wondering, because I just remember that there's a timeline that you have so much time to, I think, how you say that, if something got approved, you have so much time, so many years to actually make that happen before you have to come back
The
to us.
vested rights, yeah.
Yeah, so what's the deal with that there?
Couldn't tell you.
Rachel, do you remember which year was this? When we approved the building envelope that you were mentioning?
2013. Or 2013 or 2014.
That's like, yeah, that seems about right based on what I've seen. Now, the question would be on vesting and the fact that there are improvements in their operating could mean that it's everything is vested. And I don't know that we've ever dug into that to look at it at all.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you without knowing more.
I just thought it was interesting for you to maybe be aware in case you're not, so you can plan accordingly.
Is there a code or somewhere in the city code where
Yeah,
I could
there
look
is.
for that?
Article 14 of chapter 24. But it may not even apply. I couldn't know more about
Yeah, seems
knowing
like,
what happened. Vested rights are usually through a site-specific development plan. So depending on what that, what was approved, it may not have been a site-specific development plan at all, and there'd be no vested rights anyway. Like, I couldn't tell you.
I will get to the bottom of it.
okay,
In
yeah,
the
so
beginning of
things
the
are
week.
clear for everybody.
Right.
Great, so we don't have any more questions. Do I hear a motion?
Wait, To
Sorry.
close the hearing,
Oh,
once,
sorry,
once the hearing's closed though, there's no more questions, so
Okay,
just to be super clear.
everybody knows, everybody heard. I will now close the public hearing at 6:30 on the minor subdivision request. Commissioners, you might begin deliberations or propose any motions,
And
right?
yeah, I'm looking at the staff report
Uh-huh. And is there-
and I would actually change the recommended motion a bit. I think you can just do a motion approving resolution number PC1, series 2026, a resolution of the Planning Commission for the City of Idaho Springs, Colorado, recommending approval of the Columbus Placer minor subdivision plat. And if no one wants to say that, they can just say so moved.
So moved. Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Yes.
Votes.
Yes.
Yes.
Roll call.
Okay, roll call, I guess, yes, thank you.
Chuck Howard,
Yes.
Katie Maxwell. Yes. Jefferson Lynch,
Yes.
Judy Murphy.
Yes.
Vice Chair Ursula Krusel.
Yes. Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you, council. Appreciate your time tonight.
Okay, next on the agenda.
You got Ken.
We got Ken.
Oh, okay, all right.
Come to the podium.
I'm gonna read it and then if you have a copy, so you can react to it, it's really long.
Okay.
Makes it easier.
Got you. Thanks.
Okay. Please raise your right hand. And then repeat all of this after me. I, Kent Slaymaker, do solemnly declare and affirm that I will support and uphold the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution and laws of the state of Colorado, and the laws and ordinances of the city of Idaho Springs, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of Planning Commission member for the city of Idaho Springs, upon which I'm about to enter.
I, Ken Slaymaker, do solemnly declare and affirm that I will support and uphold the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution and laws of the state of Colorado, and the laws and ordinances of the city of Idaho Springs, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of Planning Commission member for the city of Idaho Springs, on which I'm about to enter.
Excellent. Will you autograph that for me?
Yeah.
Thanks for serving another term. Sorry about that.
Oh, wait.
Great.
Thank you.
Any old business? No, hey, we can move on to the work session agenda.
So you have to adjourn.
Oh,
It's regular.
Do I, with a motion, or I just say adjourn?
You just say adjourned.
Okay, we all adjourn. Thank you, Wanda.
We're gonna adjourn at 6:33 PM.
All right, I'll let the door head show.
I was running.
So I can go through.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to see you as always.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
see you. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
Happy Friday the 13th.
Yes, I know.
Does anyone need a break or anything?
I want to get water.
Okay, sorry, you, missed out.
I know.
First.
Your time.
meeting.
Yeah. No, I apologize.
I don't know, sometimes it's like Zoom works 95% of the time, and
I
then
know, right?
5% there's just, I have no idea how to fix it.
And same, I figured I could mess with microphones and settings, or I could just hop on my bike. So,
What happened to the hand or wrist?
Oh,
Pinky?
dislocated my pinky. I was scrubbing the bathroom. Slipped on the gels. Don't recommend it, cleaning the bathroom is dangerous.
Just live in filth.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you're a X-ray kind of person, but it's kind of fun.
Oh, you fractured it, too.
No fracture, just
Just hanging.
yeah, just hanging.
Oh, isn't that something else? Look at that.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
So it's just like a pull it out and pop
You
it back
done?
in, huh?
Yeah.
What are yours?
Right,
It's just.
oh yeah, that is nasty.
Yeah.
Uh,
I get older, man.
All right, well, I'll try to get us out of here quick, but so the first thing that I wanted to present tonight was just based on our last meeting. I did find the exterior lighting draft ordinance that had been prepared back in July of 2020. So it dates back quite far. I think at that time only Chuck and Uchi were on this commission, and Cindy, who's here, because Ken, you joined soon thereafter, right?
Yeah, I was like, they shut down this lighting thing, I'm in.
Exactly. So this was the last correspondence, and like we got to a point of having a draft lighting ordinance, which I've included as like the draft in here, as well as Barb Cole's staff reports. And should have read the minutes, but I don't know if it just didn't go to council after this and it was dropped for some reason, or why it didn't go farther. But my thought was to present it tonight and see if this still looks sort of like what we want to move forward with. And if so, then it's something that I could, over the course of the next couple of council meetings, take to council to say, hey, we worked on this almost 6 years ago and then never followed through. Do we still want to move forward? So I wanted to start here since we talked about it last month, and then get thoughts and then move forward however you think is best. And I had a couple of thoughts, was like, it's been 6 years. Is there much that we really want to dig into that doesn't match with this, things like, is there a period in which, like right now it says, like any new developments or major redevelopments have to comply, but it doesn't talk about any existing lighting. I don't know if in the past we discussed, like, should there be like a sunset date for all lighting, where you say like, hey, McDonald's, your sign's approved, but it's only approved with that lighting until 2030 or something, and then everyone has to get in compliance. Because then it forces everyone to, make the changes, or should it only be people moving forward? Similarly, like the McDonald's light right now, I call it an example, like they're not cut off fixtures, you can see the light illuminating the plastic or whatever it's made out of. This lighting ordinance doesn't really address that, so I think that's something we want to also look into. I don't know really if we had in the past and said we don't want to, but regardless, is it something that's worth considering now? And then I don't know a ton about like enforcing on foot candles, like maybe it's something I should look into, but it seemed like we were going down like a measuring foot candles from the property line route. And I don't know if Chuck or Uchi, if you remember why, or if, maybe we want to open that back up. So that's all I have.
I do actually, do you?
No.
You recall? The reason why we didn't approve it, although I think all of us were feeling very confident about it, is that I think, we made a request to, we made a request for you to like compare this proposal to other towns that were our size. But I think we got busy and then we dropped it as a.
Oh, I see. So like you had requested the planner at the time to like do a comparison to other cities and their regulations.
Yes.
Well, I know, like, I don't know when Jared came on board, but like if there was that transition period that maybe was like, I guess that was like in 2022 maybe, but anyway.
No,
it
I
seems
remember
like-
thinking that, I was like, I think we're so close, but let's check one more time kind of thing. I think that was it. And then we had to drop it because we got busy with something else, I remember. And we did not get into talking about those details, like, okay, when, if everybody, or just the new ones, or what. So I think that's something we should discuss for sure.
Hmm. Okay, so I guess then we got very far before my time, of course, but do we want to pick it back up 5.5 years on? And at least like maybe bring it to council and say, hey, council, we worked on this a long time ago, like, are you still okay to proceed with this? Or not think it's an issue anymore, I guess.
Commissioners?
Seems worth moving forward.
Yeah, I agree.
And I also really like your idea of adding sunset dates to apply to everyone a reasonable amount of time, you know. Anyone else, any thoughts on
Does anybody feel strongly against that?
Yeah, I think it's really gonna help with the character of the town that we're aiming for.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I have thoughts about enforcement. I cracked myself out thinking, like, how are we gonna do it? And I have this long candle, we're gonna go around and measure. But obviously not. But it would be nice to have like an idea of what that means. I don't know if there's too many variables. I assume there's a lot of variables. And that it's not as easy to say like, oh, okay, if your light is shedding out of your property by so many feet, you know, but it probably depends on how many lights are around, if you're in a dark space or not and all that.
Right.
I think that a lot of happens in the county, and I probably guess well in town, is that things get enforced by complaints. Anybody complains, you know, they do something about it. I feel like that's a legit thing to go about. I do know of someone, Soda Creek, that has a neighbor that has a floodlight that shines right on their bedroom. And I'm sure and sadly, they don't have a relationship like I do with my neighbor, that I can just go and ask him to, hey, please don't do that. So I think that's an important tool for them to have, to be able to come in, to have this regulation and be able to come and be like, hey, please do something about this.
Right, though as currently written, we would not regulate an existing like residents. It would be just future residents. So that would be, if that was the direction, then we'd have to build that in, I guess.
I feel like we should probably want to have something where we say if someone actually has an issue right now, to bring it forward, you know, and try to, I don't know, I would assume that's possible, right? And yeah, and ideally, if then nobody else has issues, yeah, you eventually have to accommodate to that.
Right, yeah, I mean, I would guess that we're probably not going to be in the business of proactively enforcing unless there's something like incredibly like obvious that's an issue that you go, like a commercial sign, you know, like I doubt that any of planning commission or myself is gonna drive around looking at lights at night to see, even if, and so, you know, maybe it does make sense to say, hey, there's a sunset date. We have to get into compliance, whether you're commercial or residential, and it's, you know, maybe it's 5 years from now, or maybe it's 1 year from now, or whatever, and then make it very well known so that someone with a floodlight can say, oh, okay, I have to replace this in the next 3 years, whatever it is, but, or, you know, of course, like it could also be adopted that says everyone has to comply immediately, and then there's a lot of people who have to go around shielding their bulbs or getting new fixtures. But I do think it could make a big difference for commercial development, especially if we're starting to see more things get redeveloped, with the gondola coming on, and all of that, so.
Absolutely.
It allows us to address it before it becomes an issue, so.
Does current city lighting adhere to these standards, streetlights and things?
I doubt it.
The plan says no.
I think we can see, if you can see the bulb like through the glass of the lights, it does not comply because the light would have to be like tucked in. Yeah, it definitely wouldn't, like, just to give us point of I just pulled on the,
I mean, so would changing city lights be part of the idea or at least implication of this?
yeah, and I suppose if we put in like a grace period, the city would have to, I suppose like a city could be exempt, right? Because it's for public purposes. But it would depend on how the ordinance is written. I would guess we'd need to update the ordinance regardless because it's a that ordinance from 6 years ago.
Yeah, I'm honestly not so sure about applying this to existing lighting and how that would work. Because at the end of the day, it's a zoning requirement. And we don't really apply any other zoning requirements retroactively.
Sure. Well, that's where, so I know Breckenridge did a sunset period. It's
Okay.
10 years. That's the only reason I brought it up is because I'm familiar with that from having lived there.
Yeah, they probably do that a long sunset period so that there's adequate notice
Right.
and that there's not as much harm to people.
And so it would be like, hey, if you have an existing light, you have 10 years to fix it. But for any one building new, it applies immediately.
Yeah.
Is how that works.
Makes
And
sense.
so like the person who has the neighbor with the floodlight would have to deal with that light for 10 years and then they could complain.
And
But
Well,
by
we
that
can get
point,
creative and innovate. I
Or
wouldn't hurt.
I would guess also if someone replaces a fixture, they would have to replace it with a compliant fixture. So
Yes.
if that floodlight were to be hit with a baseball bat and destroyed or something, you know.
Hail.
Or beauty.
Fails, you know, whatever, then they'd have to replace it. You'd have to go through some civil court.
A Christmas present. So need a light.
Anyway,
What about motion detector lights? Would they be included?
it's not included in this draft ordinance, but certainly if we're reopening this, if council's on board for us to work on it, then we can discuss everything. So it sounds like,
Are there examples of like, so I mean, we all know like the McDonald's signs, the Starbucks signs, all the gas stations, how those look. Like, are there examples of cities that have adopted this, what do they call it, cutoff fixture? And like, so we can like see like, this is what you could look like 10 years from now or something, because we're doing retroactive application, right?
right, I know Breckenridge and all of Summit County, but not including I don't know about the town besides Breckenridge, but unincorporated Summit County, all of the residential homes and all the businesses that are unincorporated, like in Copper Mountain, for example, they have full cutoff fixture ordinances. And they get into that issue of people complaining about their neighbors where like theoretically, I could be spending 10 hours a week talking to people complaining about their neighbors' lights. Which I'm speaking from experience. So I do think there's probably, to Nick's point, there's a lot of good reasons to give a really long lead time for that sort of thing, but it sounds like people would like to revisit this in more earnest. Is that fair to say?
And on my notes, I also had a question about motion detecting lights, because the first thing I thought was the parking lot by the clinic in town. And I don't know if it's actually on the whole time, but I've seen it on, and me being a woman, you know, like I am always very aware of dark places. And I feel like ideally, ideally that those lights wouldn't be on the whole time, but if motion detector was an option, I think I will be safer with that. Anybody? What's that?
And I have another question too. Are there any rules for landscape lighting, like solar path lights, that kind of thing?
Places have those rules, like we basically don't have anything here right now. Yeah, but you know, it's like a good example of what a lot of people try to regulate out is like houses in Florida, where they just like shine lights at their building.
Yeah.
And then the whole building is like illuminated because of these little spotlights like on the building, and people don't like that. So I know a lot of places regulate that and say you can't do it, or shine it onto your tree or whatever, but like as it stands now, pretty much the only lighting regulations we have is if there's some sign regulations for commercial businesses, and then the only other lighting is about Christmas lights, holiday lights. So we really don't have, we don't regulate anything at the moment, really.
I don't know if that's something that needs to be considered. Usually those shine down anyway.
All right, okay, so I've made those notes. I will get this on an agenda for work session for council and just make sure that they are not totally against the idea. And then I'll work on looking at what some other cities do and looking into like other ways that people regulate lights besides what's in this draft ordinance.
And it is a good point on holiday lights, folks love the holiday lights around here, so it'd be unfortunate if we accidentally
Right.
took them out.
I think it's something like you're allowed to have holiday lights, but it's a time, you're allowed it for like 12 weeks or 8 weeks or something, like it's regulated where you're not supposed to have them up year round. So anyway, like that's part of the existing code. That said, again, the city is not necessarily, they're kind of exempt from things, but we are installing like permanent lighting, right? Because it's like streetscape, public space sort of beneficial thing. And we wouldn't want to create a scenario where we're like going against our own codes.
Yeah. And the holiday lighting's weird because if you limited it to time of the year, you expose yourself to someone saying, well, I celebrate Ramadan
Yeah.
with lights, you know, and it's not in November, December, or whatever, so I think you have to be worried about that.
That whole thing,
Absolutely.
like these days, like so many nice patios in town where they have string lights, and you could argue that those are like similar to holiday lights, but I don't know, it gets hard to regulate, because that's the sort of thing people should have, you know, and like creates outdoor space that's nice and inviting and is good for the town probably, as long as it's not on all night and shining in someone's window or bedroom. But you know, how deep do we really want to go is something we'll have to explore a little more as we get more into it.
Yeah, and it feels like we can differentiate between nice string lighting and a billboard or a house with lights pointed directly at it.
Great. All right, well, I have some notes. I'll get that on the schedule as soon as I can. Probably be in April, which means we won't really discuss this again until, I don't know, late spring into summer, but if you think of anything over the next few months before we dig into it, know where to find me. Cool, all right, so anything else on that? Okay, well, the other topic I had for tonight is a few sections of the comprehensive plan. I put together three that kind of fit together this month. A couple of notes I had was like on public facilities and services, one thing I'd like to do is we did some research a number of years ago now that kind of assessed the current quality of like water and sewer infrastructure and road infrastructure and kind of ranked like priority areas. And so I'd like to include something like that in here because that's sort of makes it more data driven to say like, do we want to focus on improving these things? And this is sort of the implementation. But I don't know that the current one is up to date enough to include it. So I'll try to get some more data in that. And otherwise, I was just looking for feedback in general, or as specific as you want to be. It was a little shorter this time, but not that much. I mean, definitely shorter, but still like 25 pages or something, so.
I don't know if it's a question, it's a statement. I'm wondering, you know, if these regulations pass, you know, and if you have a historic home, the realtors should know when they're selling that home that certain restrictions exist on particularly how the outside of your house should look. And I don't know if they are given that information, if they're expected to look that information up, if they don't want to tell the new buyer that.
Yeah, at the moment. I think there's only technically 3 houses that are listed as historic houses at the moment. There's 1 in the historic district and then 2 that have been made separately, maybe 3. We don't have any requirements that they be kind of disclosed that it's historic. But I think it would be good to include that as a goal and like more education and outreach to potential buyers and to realtors about historic preservation requirements and the like opportunities and limitations they bring. That would be a great goal to add. We do run into issues now in the historic district where people buy it and don't know they're in a historic district and think they can like make the entire front facade just windows or something, you know, or like do a 2-story addition on the roof or, you know, create a swimming pool on the outside or something. So education is something that's could be greatly improved.
Where's Grass Valley?
So Grass Valley, broadly speaking, is where Safeway is, and they're like a couple of blocks just east of Safeway. This building that we're sitting in right now was actually in Grass Valley until Safeway needed to be, or was built, and then they moved it on trucks to this location. That's been identified by surveys as like a potential historic district because there's still quite a few, maybe 8 to 10 homes there that like meet the requirements to be like nationally registered as a historic home. And so that's a potential priority area for like the historic preservation folk in town already. But you wouldn't know it looking at it. There's like no signage and no information at all.
No grass.
grass.
Well, that's true too.
No grass.
So maybe I need to provide more information about where that is in the plan so people have the context.
Can we get rid of the nasty trailers and stuff down there?
I would say that it's a broad goal of the plan to revitalize their areas. So can't force someone to, but
You know, was,
definitely a goal. Like on the subject of housing, for example, I think the last meeting I heard from Cindy specifically that there's a lot of development specific focus to those sections. Like there's very development, and that could turn off residents. But so when I was thinking of the housing section, I think like an important priority is also protecting the existing homes that are here and then finding opportunities for new development if it makes sense, because you have so many historic homes and they're already old and relatively small for the most part. So they could be more affordable just in and of themselves. So we should protect those because they are important for the character, but they're also important housing. So I've tried to make it more of a focus on like preserve what we have first, while also identifying areas like a very old trailer park that could be redeveloped in a way that's beneficial for everyone. I don't know if that comes through, but that sort of is the broad housing goal. I guess the other question I'd have, putting housing and historic resources together, kind of in some ways are opposing each other, I think, because one sense, I'd say like half the town housing is kind of locked in some ways because we have several hundred homes that were built over 100 years ago and are zoned for single family. But at the same, so you're like, we need to protect those because they're historic and we can have historic districts and things like that. But at the same time, like a lot of data shows we need more housing and like housing could improve the situation for a lot of people who live in town and a lot of people who aren't even here yet. And so how do we balance those competing needs? To like allow people to build, whether you like the field house apartments or not, it's like that is providing 119 units of housing for people in town. And like if more people come and want to do something like that, what do we need to do to make sure it fits with the town without saying like, we just don't want it? I do.
I do.
So I don't know, those are things I'm thinking about with like those two sections specifically, and if anyone has feedback or.
Well, personally, I'm a big fan of how we've been focusing more on like, values of what we wanna see or. Kind of our values in the comprehensive plan as opposed to just strict zoning laws of then. On this side of the block, multifamily is allowed, on that side of the block it's not, because there's a line there. And so it seems like being more nuanced approach. Just to me makes sense. What do you all think? About the juxtaposition of needing more housing, but maintaining character.
I actually have a comment for that too, in relation to it. On the PC update, the last document on the website, where you write housing, is looking at this section, the following changes are noted. On housing, on the second paragraph, you say, preserving the high quality single family homes in the city is a clear priority while addressing the need for new housing units elsewhere. That line the elsewhere didn't sit right with me because, I was thinking about the conversations we've had about wanting the character, right? And, the feel as a single family homes. But I feel like that we can accomplish that while, so keeping that on while still adding infill housing, is that what I call it, right? Cause we have the ADU options. So I feel like as long as we're smart, either placing regulations or communicating or whatever it is that we need to do to make sure that the feel stays the same, but that we can actually include housing in there, I think they both can happen at the same time. So the elsewhere is like the thing that I think that can change, because it doesn't just need to be elsewhere. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's related with that.
Absolutely.
Sure. And when I write elsewhere, what do you think that? Like
in other parts of town where there's no single homes.
sure, okay, yeah, that's how I meant it.
Okay.
Just making sure it wasn't like we should not allow housing anywhere in town because we have this single family character and we should just make it go to Georgetown or something. Just wanted to clarify that because that's not how I meant it, but there's a lot of small towns that would mean it that way for sure. But I am thinking of areas like to Judy's point, some places on the east end definitely could be redeveloped without losing like the existing character on the north side of Colorado. And like, that's a good thing, but it sounds like we also could probably fit targeted infill in these existing mature neighborhoods without losing that character.
Yeah.
So it just needs to be a balance.
Yeah, I feel like that will be helpful for the community, we're talking about seniors, aging in place. I feel like that would be an option for people that has a single home with a lot of these homes have like a garage or a shed, they're usually like, not like tiny sheds, and if we could, and then you also talk about the city promoting programs, or, to help people age in place. And so if we could figure out how they could develop that garage to be an ADU, they could stay and keep living in there. So I feel like this connected with a lot of different things that we care about.
How's the rental of the new space going? Do we know? Are
Well,
we filling those units? I feel like after you build 119 new units, if they're not being filled, is there truly, there might be a single home housing crisis owning, but is there a housing crisis
sure.
per se?
I don't have that data yet. They are not. They don't have COs yet,
Mhm.
like certificate, so they're not allowed to be occupied yet. They're trying to get the first building, building 3, which is the one that's farthest east, the one closest to the highway. They're trying to have like a move-in date of, or like be ready for move-in by April 1st. So it's coming up quick.
Yeah, because they have leasing.
They've started
Information available,
leasing,
so,
and I have a meeting with them next week. And I'll ask them how it's going,
Curious.
because I don't really know yet. I've been trying to set up a meeting with one of, like, their leasing guy, and it's just been really busy, but I'm meeting with like all of their development team next week, so. So we'll see, but it's a good point, right? They're not, because they will be rentals only and slightly below market rate. So it doesn't target every need, but like that is a huge section, piece of the pie, right?
The needs are changing, right? Nationally, locally,
Yeah.
especially younger generations aren't necessarily looking to buy everywhere, right? They're looking to rent, they're looking for different needs than what we all kind of assumed growing up. And so I'm just curious, you know, if we're building all these new spaces for people to come in and live, to start at least, not everybody needs to buy their first home when first coming here.
We can also learn a lot. If they fill up super quickly, that tells us
Exactly.
something.
Yeah.
Versus if it takes a while,
Like what's our true?
like our need.
We're assuming there's a significant one, but if they don't fill, is there one?
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on in housing right now that are just like happening a little quicker than I would like,
Yeah.
because it's like, we probably need at least until the end of the summer to really know what this will do.
Yeah.
Because they'll have all 3 buildings done and occupiable by, I'd say, like July.
Mhm.
So it's like, you don't wanna put off on doing some of these other things,
Right.
but like 6 months from now, our housing need might show that we only need super low income and then like single family homes. Or like small single family homes, maybe really big, expensive, fancy single family homes, who knows? You know, like, it's hard to know. We're in a transitionary period for sure, so. I don't really, how to reflect that in a document like this?
I don't even think it needs to be reflected. I was just
It
curious.
should. I don't know, maybe it should though, right? Because like, we could be out of date almost immediately.
I think the only way I can think of to reflect it in a document like this is to say something like just staying abreast of continual changes, like for years and decades, just always trying to keep a finger on the pulse in general, watching occupancy rates of new projects, or not just this one, but just in general, trying to think of what you were talking about.
And the single family homes, as you said, people are aging in place, which is wonderful. But aging is a natural occurrence to it as well, right? And so there will be a time, as working on a committee that was focused on early childhood education here, and so they were, it's in all the demographics of our population in Clear Creek and it being significantly older, and so at some point too.
Well, and is not having childcare and after school
Exactly.
things, is that what's keeping us from getting younger people into this community?
Absolutely it is.
It's all circular, right? And so like housing is tied to that, which is tied to after school activities, which is tied to income, which is tied to everything.
And in my experience, that's more of a keeping people from staying here than coming here thing, which is maybe a harder metric to track. But if you just tracked young families moving to the area, like, you wouldn't capture people who came here and then realized, oh crap, and then left, you know?
Well, that's a good point. What do you all think about adding to this housing section more of that like social infrastructure need as part of the goals? Like to say like, yes, we're gonna focus on building more housing, but we're also gonna focus on childcare, after school programming, like safe third spaces for children, that sort of thing. Cause that's a big discourse in housing right now, is like, yeah, you can build housing for people, like single parents, and like get them into housing they can afford and feel secure in, but if they have to work 50 hours a week and their kids there alone, it still doesn't work for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the nice thing, luckily for us, it's already, a lot of it's already being done on the side with different committees and things like that, so it's not something that would be starting from ground zero, right? There's already people focused on this luckily.
Well, isn't the rec center or something doing some after school?
Yep, they do after school, they're doing, more summer camps, are starting at 4 now and younger for care, which is really a big thing.
And the county is also, I think, looking for more ways to put more money into that.
The library does some stuff too, don't they?
Yeah, they do a lot.
So I think it will be valuable to add that angle, because there are variables for that. And I even was thinking probably, it's probably a different also, path for maybe people that are looking to buy
Mhm.
versus people that are just renting, because if they're trying to buy, they probably will look at all those things before.
They
you
might be
know.
looking a little more long-term, right?
Yeah.
I don't wanna generalize it, but I would
Yeah,
assume.
yeah,
if you're looking
absolutely,
to
yeah,
buy,
yeah.
you're
No, and
looking
the
to settle
rentals
for a
may
bit.
show up and then they're like, okay, this is not working, they just.
Exactly.
One of my questions too was, is the field house in compliance with that proposition 1, 2, 3? Do we know what they're going to charge for rent on these units?
Well, last I heard, they were wrapping things up with the Division of Housing to like officially secure the equity program funds. I need to follow up with them on that next week as well. It's on my top of list. Once they finalize that funding, then Division of Housing will ensure that it meets all the Division of Housing requirements for that program. So we won't have to do any of that monitoring or enforcement because the program funded it through the state. So the state will be on top of that for that, which is good for me, but, again, like that equity program funding requires an average AMI of like 80 to 90%
Right.
across all the units, which means that some of them will be like truly affordable, and you look at it and say, all right, well, if I'm a first year teacher with a kid, a couple of kids, like I can afford this, but then other ones you'll look at and say like, that is not affordable for this community. And it's because we're lumped in with the Denver region. And so maybe another goal needs to be that we like focus on housing solutions that are specific to Idaho Springs, regardless of regional counting and things like that.
Absolutely.
We had talked a while ago about doing a study specific for us, right? And not, just so we know the difference, disparities between what Denver and Jeffco has and what we need. Where,
Yeah, I
I knew the numbers
actually
are there, my brain's not pulling it.
I was
forward.
wondering, no, yeah, you're right. I was wondering too if that's something that you have added. I didn't think I saw it, but I might have missed it. Or maybe, I think maybe it was just a goal that you have it somewhere to figure out specific. You remember we were talking about for us specifically a 2-bedroom will be like a rental 700 kind of thing.
Right, like
And-
creating our own
Yeah.
charts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course, well, I don't think that's in there and I will add it. The one thing, and I think this is also worth discussing once this is passed, is like someone could still do what the field house did and get money from the state, and then it's regulated by the state.
Mhm.
Like it's their state's affordable housing requirements, so it's going to be affordable for what Department of HUD and China say. But if we ever went to a point where we started like incentivizing affordable housing by say waiving tap fees or giving a grant out, then that's where we really need this chart that's local to us, because we can say we're only gonna give this money if you meet this requirement. And on the positive note, the housing authority that is going to hire an executive director soon, their consultant that they've been working with created a matrix for sale that is affordable for Clear Creek County.
Okay.
So they've done a lot of that work now so that they can evaluate projects when the developer comes to them and says, we want to work with you. So I feel like it's something that we could also adopt pretty easily
Mhm.
for our in-town projects. And once the housing authority is, I don't know if I have much about the housing authority, but like, that is a good partnership, right? Because if anyone comes and says, we wanna do housing, like, they're a perfect partner. So, yeah, so I should definitely add something about sort of all of that, I think.
I have more questions.
Hey, great.
Is that in your affordable housing section for workforce housing, you've got for the current price of a single family home being 275,000? Is that really current?
No, that's what it was back in 2017.
Yeah.
It's like 500 and something now. So, okay. There's not really page numbers, but
Sure.
no.
I know, and my printer wouldn't print them off anyway.
Well, so what oh yeah, that's totally, that didn't get updated, so that's a good catch.
Yeah, and rents too are, I assume, higher than that.
Yes, definitely. Well. Yeah, definitely. 1,300 would be like considered affordable today, even though that was just like the average rent 8 years ago. Okay. Yeah, I didn't update those numbers. Sorry about that.
Like I just thought, oh, wow.
That would be great. Those were the prices that we would not be talking about.
Yeah.
Wish I could print for that.
And I have that data. It just didn't fit it. Again, I think it's like 575,000 or something crazy like that now instead of 275,000.
Yeah, I know.
I think the typical rent is more like, I mean, it depends on what you're renting. Like if it's a room in a house, it's probably less than 1,300, I would hope, but like like the stuff above, like apartments that are in downtown are like 1,600 a month. And I think Bighorn apartments might be around 1,500 a month, which technically is considered affordable now in Idaho Springs based on the HUD data.
I heard that the Argo apartments, you know, the one that like by the bridge, they're 2 bedrooms, I think, with that. But I've heard they're really, really bad, like they need new carpet, everything, 2,400 a month. Yeah,
People live in them, so I guess they're getting that. So if the market bears it out, then that's market rate, right? But it's.
You talking about
Yeah.
fourth person?
Yeah, that's what someone told me.
No, I mean, it's not, when a whole bunch of,
I used to run.
when a whole bunch of landlords work together to set the rate. It's technically called a cartel, not market rate, but. So no, I just. So no, I disagree, that like, people pay it, so I guess it's market rate. People have no other options and landlords collude to set the price, then yeah, I suppose it's market rate.
Well, now they do have other options though. Now they have the field house.
Exactly, which is why building more places, exactly.
Gives them
Good
other
point.
options and lower rent and all of that stuff.
And to the point you made earlier, Kate, like the Bighorn apartments in Georgetown, like not everyone can commute from Georgetown. There's like a lot of need for housing, like where you work, but there's some of those available now and they're less than 2,400. They're like 18, 17, 1,600, like, so there is housing available in that price range, which makes it even more interesting to see how the field house starts leasing. And whether that puts those other units out of commission almost, because
Yeah.
you can't, if you can get like a brand new apartment for 1,800, let's say, you're not gonna pay 2,400 for a 2-bedroom that is 40 years old.
Most likely not, right? And it's right down the street, so it's not, you know,
Right.
moving towns and.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole idea of promoting competition, and the idea that if an area needs X amount of housing, you actually need like 1.5X or some amount more to have competition. It seems weird because we don't have a ton of room, but you know.
Right. Yeah, we're limited in some ways by the space we have, unless we're willing to knock down a lot of things and just build with a lot of density, which places do. That also just talks about partnership across the county to fit it in wherever we can.
And I have one more question. Maybe that's all. Very close. On the senior housing, how did, you were talking in there about programs to help seniors make their houses better, chair lifts and that kind of thing. How do the seniors know that that money is available to them?
It's a good question. We don't have that, like a program in place right now, at least at a city level. So if we were to institute that, that would have to be part of it, is education and outreach.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, but as far as I know, I mean, unless there's, I don't know, project support or if any like other nonprofits do any of that, I don't know about it, but we as a city don't have any programs in place now. I think the goal is to improve that situation though. And a part of it would have to be, yeah, that education and outreach.
More questions, Judy?
I think that's all.
Anybody else?
Yeah, we should have a quick thing, if that's cool. Unrelated, really. Sadie and the business promotion board group and other parts of the city have scheduled a few different public update things on, honestly, on like planning related stuff.
Tonight.
Yeah, there's one tonight,
Now.
and ironically, it's like the third one in a row that's on the same night as a planning commission meeting.
Yeah.
And I think it was just complete accident, but I mentioned it to her when I got the invite of like, this is like the third one in a row that's the same night. Kind of seems like some of us might want to be there. So I think they're gonna try to schedule it on other nights, but it's just an FYI to everybody here.
I'll try to. Sadie and I really ought to talk more regularly about like upcoming things. Like I talked to her about very specific things a lot, but I mean, like our meetings are pretty well set and advertised like as a month to month thing. So people should know that it's happening, but people
So
still
we have
don't.
also switched it to Thursday. Until when? When are you done with your
It will
classes?
end in May. So we only have 2 more months and then we'll go back to Wednesdays.
Yeah, and I don't think we need to change or anything, but I think some communication with them would be good because they're literally doing like updates on pretty much everything we're talking about. Their agenda for night is the stuff we've talked about over the last 3 or 4 months, and it would be pretty cool if some of us could make those sometimes, which isn't anyone here's
Right.
fault that it's been the same night.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about this, like, obviously, we'd already like done the notice for the subdivision and all that, but if we hadn't done that, I was considering reaching out to all of you and saying, should we move the day of ours, because like, people don't attend our meetings.
Right.
Unless there's something really, really spicy. But, like if we said, hey, we're gonna build a second gondola, we'll probably get a lot of people for that meeting. But
Second, what?
like, otherwise,
Under the word, the old Carlson building and everyone's here.
that one, if and when there's a final development plan, we will have people in the audience for sure, but.
Well, we beg for feedback before, like the night of the big vote, like there's plenty of, in events like this tonight over there, are people trying to give feedback, so anything we can do to
Yeah.
increase the communication lines, that
Definitely.
seems like a good thing.
They
Well,
just offer
and-
beer and food at that one and we don't, so.
Hey, so
People should-
maybe if we're there, that's good, we can talk,
Exactly.
Who wants to bake cookies?
But when we did have that pre-submittal public meeting with the developer, we had about 25, 30 plus people here. So people are interested when they're interested, but the unfortunate thing is, like, I was in a conference talk today, and we'll keep it quick because then we can leave, but it was like Washington State, Washington and Oregon, they were talking about how they do affordable housing. And they were talking about how like the way they have it set up, it's like they do an incredible amount of public meetings for things like code amendments and master plan documents and all that to like build to the point where we've established regulations and we build those regulations out and there's like tons and tons of opportunities for it. But once the regulations are passed, there's no public hearings about like developments. So like if someone came in and we were sitting in Washington, I think Oregon, I think, one of the two, they would have like public hearing, there would not be a public hearing about a 30-unit apartment complex in town because they would have already given people months and months of opportunity to say, these are the sorts of things we want to see. And then after that, sorry, you missed your chance. And that doesn't happen here, but I tried to get people to tons of different meetings and things like that. I'm actually hosting like a Parks and Recreation Open Space one on the 18th with Cameron at the Rec District. I'm just gonna like set up a bunch of stuff in the room next to the front desk, like pretty much all day. And if people want to stop in and get a free Cliff Bar or something. But like, that might work because it's at the rec center and it's about recreation and open space, which people like to talk about. But like, I bet if I set up that same meeting to talk about housing as a broad concept, I'd get 1/10 of the number of people. Like, it just doesn't excite people until there's actually a functional thing in front of them, which means it's even more important for like the seven of you and me and then council to make sure that like what's in here it like is reasonable and reflects the community, which is a lot of pressure to put on all of you, I guess, but once this is passed, it's like kind of is a opportunity to say like, well, sorry, you had 8 months to give us feedback. And I've tried to incorporate as much as possible without, you know, just saying like, we're not gonna build anything else because that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I don't feel the pressure because of that. If we weren't trying to get people out and trying to talk to people, that would be different, but that is truly what's going on and having these informational sessions that Sadie's leading and, you know, the conversations are trying, so people can choose to opt in and have those conversations, they can choose not to, and they leave it up to council and the rest of the city team to say, okay, well, they'll make the decision for you.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
Seems like at the very least, we should get like a recap of what was talked about at those type of meetings. They're often very planning
I
heavy.
think they're talking about like Argo and everything tonight, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And obviously the planning aspect of the Argo was approved years ago, right? This is like this is when they're opening and when you'll start to see things, but
Well, if it's not appropriate for us, then at least hopefully it's us.
well, you'd certainly, like, obviously that's a community meeting, we're all in the community, like, you can say whatever you want about them, but like,
Yeah,
the gondola was approved so long ago that you can't address that issue. It's more like, how do we make sure now that when there's inevitable issues with parking or traffic,
Right.
there's a plan that the city and the private.
And I have a question about the Argo. Are they still planning on doing some housing in their last chapter of the Argo?
Good, their plan development allows for housing, it allows for lodging, it allows for additional commercial. So if they want to do that in the future, it would require a final development plan.
And they are already a metro district. How can that be controlled in their housing so that the people aren't getting dinged for all that lovely metropolitan district crap?
It's a good question. It's not really much you can do at this stage, right? No.
Is there any way that we could put at least somewhere put in that we can't have double districts?
I don't think so. You can't, the city can't really restrict metro districts that much.
That makes me very sad.
I mean, there's like a couple of, you know, like you sent the data about Aurora and
Longmont,
Centennial.
was it Longmont?
not Aurora, Centennial and maybe Longmont or something where they did some moratorium, things like that.
Both home rule.
That's the problem, we're not home rule, that's a good point. All right, well, is there any, like, broadly speaking, like, I have a lot of notes here to add, but are we generally on the right track? Would you say? Is there anything definitely that needs to be?
I think we're pretty well on the right track.
Yeah, that's right.
So what I'm planning on doing, just for reference, is like continuing on with each new section each time, and then once we get to the end of new sections, then I'll present all the changed sections, just with like a red line, and it'll be a long document, and then, you know, people like the red lines, great, and then we can get it published on the website and like announce it as like this is a draft, you have so that 30 days or 60 days to make comments, here's how you make comments. Please review it public if you want to, and if you don't want to, then forever hold your peace, you know?
I have an idea. You can have Miss Honeybun to volunteer to read the compliment, to read all the sections. Some of your kids will put them to sleep and you can listen to the compliment.
That's not-
Childcare, all wrapped up in one.
Would be good. I wonder if our website has like it has e-reader capabilities for sure. It's an accessible website. Wonder if you can like change the voice so it's very soothing. This doesn't do it like an audiobook.
I need to go to
That'd be
sleep.
fun. Maybe once we adopt it, we can do an audiobook version. People can listen to it.
That'd be easy.
Which would be a good voice, I think.
Nah,
Oh, be fun.
no, we might need two versions. The people that are cool with immigrants and the ones that are not.
We don't need a version for that second group. No.
All right, fantastic. Then Spanish version.
I'll charge for that one.
I'm not sure. I know there's like hearing processes, and there's like a special approval process for the plan. But we can look at that as it gets closer.
We do have the capability on our website to change the language to anything.
Okay.
But I don't know if you can review it.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
it's in the flame. Anyway, all right, so I have enough direction for these sections unless anyone else has anything else. Yeah. Go home, everyone.
Good.